Hi, it's Elaine with MCPS Technology. Today let's check out something called Google Ngram Viewer. What this is an online search engine that can chart the frequency that a word or phrase is used over time. This technology is possible because for several years now Google has been in the process of digitizing books, going all the way back to the year 1800. And to this point, millions of books have been digitized. So Ngram Viewer is a tool that allows us to analyze how words and phrases have been used over time. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, how in the world would I ever use that? That's what I hope this video will show you. So to get to Ngram Viewer, it's very easy. You can just go to your Omnibox and type in Ngram Viewer and it will come up readily as a part of Google Books. Now when you get there, there's an example already on the site that involved the words Frankenstein, Albert Einstein, and Sherlock Holmes, and the frequency with which these words are used between the years 1800 and 2000. So it's kind of interesting that you can see that Frankenstein has stayed alive, so to speak, while the words Albert Einstein and Sherlock Holmes have kind of plateaued. So that's kind of interesting. If you look over here, you can see that the default years are between 1800 and 2000. However, you can go up to 2008, I think is about the highest you can go right now. Although Google is constantly working on their digitization, so that will continue to go up. Notice you can also choose different languages. I'm just going to stick with English here. And the smoothing is about statistical analysis, and I'm not smart enough to explain to you what that means. So I typically just leave that alone. So what I'd like to show you is an example. Let's say you're teaching about global warming or climate change and that sort of thing. So let's just check out the term global warming and see how that has fared over time. Click on the big blue button that says search lots of books. So if you look at this chart, you can see that pretty much the term global warming did not exist until sometime after 1980. And look how it has climbed over the years between 1980 and 2008. That is very interesting. So it's kind of fascinating to see that language is a growing, changing entity. And not just that, but then you can analyze where that term came from, why did we start using it, and that sort of thing. Now we can also compare terms, and that's one of the things that makes Ngram Viewer the most interesting. So you can place a comma and then you can type, for example, climate change. You can see I did this already because the words are coming up. And so this is another term. If we want to compare terms, then notice that climate change is now in red and global warming in blue. So this is very interesting to see what has happened. They kind of ran together. Neither term existed until sometime around 1990. And then it's interesting how global warming has kind of fallen off in compared to the words climate change. And so if I were teaching about this, it might be an interesting discussion to analyze why we essentially have stopped using the term global warming, but we are now using the term climate change, which continues on an upward trajectory, whereas global warming has plateaued. And so that could be an interesting scientific discussion as to why we might have adopted new terminology for that. And of course, there's many other ways that you can use this tool. I like to do things just sometimes out of curiosity. Like, for example, what if we compare the terms ouch and OMG? Now, we know that terms like OMG, wow, check this out. Okay, isn't this fascinating? So look at the term ouch. it's gone up and down since 1800, but it's essentially been around. Kind of peaked somewhere around 1950, then had another rise, and it's just kind of stayed the same or almost the same. Well, look at OMG. Notice it was used. It was used back in the day. So we that's interesting. We can try to figure out why. But notice there's a huge spike sometime around the hmm, in the 1990s, coming up on the year 2000, and I think we can probably figure out what happened here, right? This is when texting became a thing, and so that's when OMG became part of our common language. One of the most interesting things you can do is you can actually check out some of the books that where these terms are used. So let's just look at between 1800 and 1971. And notice some of the places that OMG is used. For example, Army regulations. So it was probably an acronym. Manual for Laboratory Animal Technicians. Again, probably an acronym. Fascinating stuff. Now look at between 2008 and 9. And you can see that we've got things about Java, Dork Diaries, Tales from a Not So Fabulous Life, having to do with texting, I'm sure, up here, LOL. So this is all texting language. And so this is a fascinating way that you can see how our culture has changed over time by looking at the way terms have changed over time. Now you can do a couple of, well, actually several advanced things also with Ngram Viewer. So if I want to explore two words that are perhaps like a word that's used as a noun and a verb. For example, the word contrast can be used as a noun and it can be used as a verb. So what I do when I'm using the same word twice is I use an underscore. So I would put contrast underscore noun, contrast underscore verb, and then search. And check this out. So contrast as a noun has essentially been growing, although it's now starting to plateau and go down. But look at contrast verb, which has basically remained flat from 1800 to 2008. And so then we could launch into a discussion about why that might be so. So as you can see, this is just really rich with opportunity for analysis in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of subject areas. One thing before we go, I want to point out to you, this link near the bottom that says About Ngram Viewer is actually a place where you can learn about advanced usage of the Ngram Viewer. So if you're interested in finding ways to do other types of searches, one called a wildcard search, where, and you can read it for yourself because it's kind of complicated. Not that complicated once you get into it, but you can even do inflections, different versions of words, and you can compare those, case sensitive searches, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in Ngram Viewer, the best thing to do to get interested and to really enjoy it is to just play with it. Like every other Google tool, just get in there and put in some terms, and I think that you'll see that there are many, many ways that you can use this in the work that you do with students. So I hope you enjoy Ngram Viewer. I can't wait to hear about what you have to say about it.